Tornado warning. Kansas, Tulane. Rain slanted like shrapnel. One semi-truck sat on the gravel shoulder, its flashers blinking a desperate rhythm. A white-haired man, in a yellow slicker, stumbled out, gripping the cab, hands shaking uncontrollably.
He couldn't make his fingers close. The storm was going to kill him right here.
Nobody's stopping for him. She slowed.
She pulled onto the shoulder and stepped out into the storm. Rain plastered her twist-outs instantly.
I can change that tire. Where's your spare?
He pointed weakly. She found the spare rack under the trailer, then grabbed the lug wrench. Her hands found the pattern. Muscle memory from a decade in motor pools.
He watched her work, and his breathing finally began to slow.
She didn't look up. There were still lugs to tighten. The tornado sirens moaned in the distance, but her hands never paused. The last lug thudded home. She dropped the wrench and stepped back, the spare tire held against the mud.
You did it. In this wind. How?
Get in your truck. You need to get off this road. Now.
Let me pay you, please. I got cash.
Number. Just promise me you'll get home safe. That's all the payment I need.
She didn't wait for an answer. She walked back to her sedan and slid behind the wheel, soaked to the bone.
He stood in the rain, watching her taillights shrink. His hand still clutched the wallet she wouldn't touch.
The semi's engine turned over. Earl pulled slowly back onto the highway, his hands finally steady on the wheel. On the trailer's mud-splattered door, half obscured by rain, the words Whitman Freight caught a flash of lightning. Sharon's sedan pushed through the downpour, heading west toward her son. The storm behind her, the debt unpaid. 3 days later, morning sun on the trailer. The storm was a bad memory. Inside, her 12-year-old Marcus read at the table. Sharon was still worn from that roadside repair. A black SUV with a Whitman Freight logo pulled into the gravel drive. The engine cut. A man in a tailored Western-cut suit stepped out. He glanced around like he'd never seen a trailer park. He walked up to her door and knocked. 3 solid raps that cut through the stillness.
Nobody comes to my door except the mailman. This is something else.
She opened the door. A stranger filled the frame, his suit immaculate, his eyes carrying a question. Polished boots. A silver belt buckle. The Whitman Freight emblem embroidered on his jacket.
He knows about that night. Why else would a man like him be here?
He didn't speak. He just stood there, the weight of 3 days and a saved life hanging between them. She stepped back and let him inside. He took off his hat, held it with both hands like a shield.
My name is Randall Whitman. I own Whitman Freight, the man you helped in the storm. That was my brother, Earl.
He pulled out his phone, showed her a photo of 2 brothers in front of the very first Whitman truck, taken 40 years ago. Earl wouldn't quit the road. That retirement run was supposed to be his last before the desk.
When he didn't check in, I hired a helicopter. We searched that whole county. He was alive because of you. I am here to offer you a job. Salaried. Running our fleet safety and mechanical training. It's yours if you want it.
This kind of money for changing a tire. People don't just hand out jobs for that. There's always a catch. I am a single mom who works in a warehouse. I haven't set foot in a garage other than my own driveway in years. Why me?
Because my brother's hands stopped shaking because of you. Because you knew what to do when no one else would. That's the kind of person I need.
The silence stretched. Sharon didn't say yes. She was thinking about everything he hadn't offered yet.
I'll take your job on one condition. Every long-haul driver gets paid storm shelter leave. No questions asked.
Storm shelter leave? That's not a line item in my budget. You know what that could cost a fleet this size?
I know what a jackknifed truck costs. A driver, dead on the roadside because he was afraid to stop in a warning. That's your budget too.
Every driver calls in scared every time the sky darkens. I am out of business. There's got to be limits.
Limits got your brother shaking on a gravel shoulder with a blown tire. The company belongs to the road, he said. The road needs to give back.
She's using my own words. The road does belong to us, but she's asking me to put it in writing.
I am not asking for a favor. I am telling you the price of my yes, no storm leave, no deal.
The air in the trailer turned brittle. Randall stared at the woman who'd saved his brother and was now asking him to save men he'd never met.
You really won't take the job unless I rewrite company policy right now.
Sharon didn't nod. She just waited, the glove she'd thrown lying on the table between them, impossible to ignore.
All right, Sharon. I'll put storm leave in writing. No questions. But you better train this fleet like no one else.
It will. You have my word. Now let's shake on it.
Their hands met. The first contract Randall Whitman ever signed on a kitchen table.
My brother made me promise. He said, "You are the real deal." He wants to meet you properly after he's back on his feet.
Tell him I'd like that. Maybe he can teach me a few things about the road. After all, I've only fixed one tire.
From the hallway, Marcus had been listening. He slipped out of his room and saw his mother shake hands with a stranger in a three-piece suit.
Mom never brings anyone here. This man looks important. What did she do that night?
Marcus, come here. This is Mr. Whitman. He owns a big trucking company.
Hey there, young man. Your mom is a hero. She saved my brother in a tornado. You know that?
The handshake sealed the deal. But the real challenge wouldn't start until Monday morning. Monday morning, Sharon drove through the gates of Whitman Freight's main depot. The parking lot was a sea of semis. Randall met her at the garage entrance. He walked her through the bays like she was already one of his own. The training room smelled of diesel and coffee. 20 drivers sat in folding chairs, arms crossed.
They're looking at me like I am still in the doorway asking for a mechanic.
She stood at the whiteboard. The first session was basic tire safety, but the silence was disrespectful.
I know most of you think this is a waste of time. Let me show you why it's not.
She demonstrated a torque sequence on the training rig. A few drivers leaned forward despite themselves, but when she finished, the applause didn't come. The room cleared out fast. Later, Randall found her in the empty garage, leaning against a tool chest.
They need time. You are not just a trainer, Sharon. You are a mirror they're not ready to look into yet.
The next morning, Earl Whitman walked into the training room. A wooden cane tapped the floor with each step.
I told Randall I was coming. Every man in this room needs to hear what she did.
He made his way to the front, turned, and faced the drivers like he was still behind the wheel.
3 weeks ago, I was shaking on the shoulder, couldn't hold the wrench. She changed my tire in a tornado warning.
In the rows of chairs, crossed arms came undone. A few men leaned forward.
She saved my life before I knew her name. That's the kind of teacher you've got.
Sharon stood at the side, her face calm, but the silence had turned from doubt to expectation.
Show them again, Sharon. Show them how you did it that night.
She knelt at the training rig. This time, every driver leaned in. No one looked away. The tires wouldn't change themselves, and the room knew it. The lesson had finally started. That week, Marcus started spending afternoons at the depot. Earl showed him the truck yard and told stories of the old roads.
What was the worst storm you ever drove through, Mr. Earl?
But not every driver welcomed the change. That afternoon, a veteran stood up mid-lesson. "Why should we listen to someone who's never pulled a long haul?" he demanded. The room went still.
You are right. I am not a driver, but I've spent more time under a truck than most of you. Let me show you.
She pointed to a mistorqued assembly on the rig and fixed it in 30 seconds flat. The driver stared at the now silent machinery. The silence shifted from challenge to recognition. He sat down without another word. Around him, the other drivers nodded slowly.
That's how you handle a hard road. She doesn't need to drive. She knows the engine.
She didn't blink. She just showed them. Mom's not just a trainer, she's the real deal.
Sharon, the board met yesterday. The storm leave policy is burning a hole in the quarterly projections. They're calling it a blank check. Pressure's mounting to roll it back.
You knew the cost when we shook. Earl was on his knees. The board wasn't.
What if we cap it? 10 hours per storm. Drivers still get something, and we survive the quarter.
No caps. No questions. If that's too much, you get my resignation.
The office air was thinner than Kansas altitude. Outside, clear sky. Inside, its own weather.
I am trying to keep you here. If we lose contracts, people lose jobs, yours included.
Then you choose. The company that left your brother shaking, or the one that values every driver. It's that simple.
She didn't wait for an answer. She stood, straightened her jacket, and walked to the door. Randall stared at the closed door. The policy was still on paper, but it had never felt more precarious. 3 nights later, the Kansas sky bruised purple again. Tornado warnings once more. A driver stood alone reading it. He'd heard the board wanted it gone.
They'll never use it if they don't trust it. This storm has to be the proof.
The first hailstones cracked against the depot roof like gunshots. Tornado sirens moaned. He pulled up the company portal. The storm shelter leave request button was live. He pressed it. The message blinked. Storm shelter leave approved. Pull over safely. The rig's GPS showed a truck stop 8 miles ahead. He turned off the highway. At dispatch, Sharon's tablet pinged. The first driver had checked in safe.
He used it. The policy isn't just paper anymore. Others will see.
Outside, the storm screamed. But a Whitman driver was checking into a motel, not a hospital. By dawn, the storm had torn east. Not a single Whitman truck was in a ditch or jackknifed on the shoulder. The driver walked into the weekly safety debrief, still wearing his jacket and carrying the motel keycard. He told of the hail, the 70-mile-an-hour crosswind. I'd have jackknifed. Instead, I slept in a motel bed. The room of 20 drivers and supervisors went completely still. No one reached for a coffee cup or a phone.
You did the right thing. That's exactly why the policy exists.
She locked eyes with Randall at the back of the room. He gave a slow, almost imperceptible nod.
This might be the first time a driver thanked a policy instead of cursing it.
But the driver turned to his coworkers, voice cracking. She fought for this. The board wants to kill it. Murmurs rippled through the room. Several drivers looked toward the policy memo still pinned on the corkboard. No one clapped, but the silence now had a different texture. Less doubt, more resolve. The policy had a witness. Randall called Sharon to his office that afternoon. His tie was loosened. His eyes were heavy, but something had shifted.
The board fought me for 3 hours. They called you a liability, said the policy was a blank check. I told them about the driver, about Earl, about a woman who changed a tire in a tornado. Storm shelter leave is now permanent. No cap. No questions. It's in the handbook.
The words landed like a release. A pressure she'd been carrying since that night on the shoulder finally lifted.
He actually did it. All those nights wondering if I'd have to walk. You took a risk. For people who'll never know your name.
I took a risk for the company. We should have been. Thank you for showing me.
They shook hands, but this time it was different. Not a contract signed, but a partnership forged. Through the window, a Whitman semi pulled out of the yard and headed west. The storm was truly behind them. A week after the policy was signed, Earl found Sharon in the garage. No cane this time. His stride was steady.
Randall told me everything. The leave policy, the board, the fight. You kept your promise. I am taking my last run tomorrow. The exact route where we met. I'd be honored if you and Marcus rode with me.
Mom, a real semi. The long haul. Can we?
We'll be there. It's only right.
The next morning, Earl's cab glowed in the sunrise. Marcus climbed up first, his head swiveling at the dashboard.
Never been up here. Buckle up, son. Today you ride shotgun.
Sharon slid into the driver's seat for the first leg. Earl pointed out landmarks. Marcus leaned between them, silent with joy. The highway stretched ahead, flat and golden. The same road she'd driven in the storm, now quiet under a blue dome. For the first time, Sharon wasn't fixing something. She was steering the whole world forward. At mile marker 217, Earl asked Sharon to pull over. The gravel shoulder was just as it had been that night.
This is the spot. Right here. I couldn't stand up straight. My hands shaking so bad. She was already on her knees in the mud.
Marcus stared at the ground where his mother had worked. The grass was still flattened from that night.
All that rain, all that fear. And it led us here.
She used this wrench. The same one from that night.
He placed the red-handled lug wrench in Marcus's palm. The steel was cool, but the weight was history.
This is the one. This exact wrench?
The same. She wouldn't take a dime, so I kept it. Thought I'd give it back one day.
Sharon watched, her throat tight. She hadn't known he'd saved the tool. Marcus held the wrench like it was made of lightning. They drove the last mile to the original Whitman depot, a red brick building turned museum. The vintage rig from 1972 stood out front, polished to a gleam. A small crowd filled the training hall. Drivers, mechanics, even the board members found seats. Randall stood at the front, waiting.
Earl's last run marks more than a retirement. Starting today, the storm shelter leave is permanent. We're naming it the Earl Whitman Safety Leave.
The room erupted. Earl, seated in the front row, stood slowly, leaning on nothing, and raised a hand.
And the woman who made it all possible, who changed a tire in a tornado, and then changed this company, Sharon Everett.
Sharon walked to the podium. The applause made the lights tremor. She didn't give a speech. She simply held up the badge they'd given her. Regional Safety and Mechanical Training Lead.
This isn't just mine. Every driver who gets safe shelter now, that's who really earned it.
Marcus, in the front row, beamed up at his mother. He'd never been more certain that heroes were real. After the applause, Earl, Sharon, and Marcus posed by the vintage truck. 3 people, 1 wrench, and a world changed. That night, back in the trailer, the noise of the ceremony had faded. Marcus lay in bed, the wrench on his nightstand.
Mom, were you scared that night? With the tornado and all?
More than I've ever been. My heart was pounding so loud I could barely hear the wind.
Then why'd you do it?
Because being scared doesn't mean you can't act. The right thing is almost never the easy thing.
Marcus held the wrench a little tighter, then set it back carefully.
I am gonna remember that.
She kissed his forehead and turned out the light. His breathing evened out within minutes. Sharon sat alone at the kitchen table. The wrench still lay where Marcus had placed it. If she closed her eyes, she could still hear the rain. But the storm, like the fear, had passed. The next morning, the wrench caught the first light through the kitchen window. Ordinary tool, extraordinary weight. Outside, the Kansas sky was clear. The trailer sat quiet, but nothing was the same. That afternoon, the 2 lanes stretched west under a sinking sun. A Whitman freight semi-crested the rise, its trailer gleaming. As it passed, the logo caught the gold light. Whitman Freight, no longer just a name, but a promise. On its dashboard, a red-handled wrench rested beside the driver's log. A reminder, not a relic. Behind it, 2 more trucks followed, then 4. a convoy of men who knew the road would shelter them. Sharon didn't need to see it. The proof was already written in the policy, in the lives. A hand, a driver's hand, touched the wrench casually, a family heirloom now passed through many hands. The semis disappeared into the sunset, Kansas unfolding before them. One act, still rippling, still changing what the road could be. 2 weeks later, the training hall filled again. Sharon stood at the whiteboard, the red-handled wrench mounted on the wall behind her.
Every driver who ever sees a tornado warning, you remember. The road doesn't judge who helps. It just remembers.
Later on a ranch porch, Earl and Randall turned through an old photo album. Earl pointed to a picture of 2 boys by a dented pickup.
We started with one truck and a prayer. Now that wrench hangs in the training room. She took our name and gave it a new meaning.
In the trailer, Marcus did his homework at the kitchen table. The wrench lay beside his notebook, a silent tutor, but the sky outside was bruising again. Storm warnings crawled across the television. On a highway 200 miles east, a driver glanced at his phone, read the alert, and touched the shelter request button without hesitation. The message came through on Sharon's tablet as lightning split the sky. Safe at truck stop. Thank you. Kansas opened under the storm, but the shoulders stayed empty. The empire was never the company. The empire was the road, and the people willing to fix it. A month passed. Sharon packed her lunch at the same kitchen table. The wrench still sat there, not as a trophy, but as a quiet reminder.
Mom, you think I could learn to fix a tire someday? Like a real one.
The training hall was full again. Sharon stood at the whiteboard, her badge clipped to a Whitman polo. Behind her, the wrench hung in a simple frame on the break room corkboard. The storm shelter memo was pinned next to handwritten thank yous from drivers. Another storm rolled through the plains. A driver touched the shelter request without a second thought. The message came, safe and dry, thank you. The highways stayed clear. Whitman freight trucks moved in convoys now, drivers knowing the company had their backs. The wrench went from dashboard to dashboard, passed among drivers like a torch. Each hand held it for a mile, then passed it on.
She didn't just fix a tire that night. She fixed the way we look at the road.
Back at the trailer, Sharon tucked Marcus in. The boy's hand rested on the wrench for a moment. A nightly ritual. Outside, the Kansas night was still. The road waited, but no driver had to face it alone. The sun rose over the trailer like any other morning, but the air felt different now, lighter, settled.
Seems like yesterday he was shaking on that gravel. Now Marcus knows what the wrench means. That's all I needed.
She didn't need headlines. The proof was in the quiet. Marcus finishing his breakfast. The wrench on the table. The road unchanged but safer. The wrench had become a fixture, part of the table's landscape. It had traveled more miles than most drivers. And still its weight meant the same thing. Someone will stop. On the ranch porch, Earl folded the last page of the album. The sun was warm, the breeze steady.
You know, I never did thank her right. She wouldn't let me pay, so I gave her the wrench.
The highway stretched out from the ranch, empty under the midday sun. A single Whitman, semi-moved west, a red-handled shape, just visible on the dashboard. The wrench didn't belong to Sharon anymore. It belonged to the road. The trailer kitchen was quiet. Marcus's handprint smudged the wrench where he'd held it before school. On the highway, a Whitman freight truck rolled past mile marker 217. The shoulder was empty, the sky calm. Inside the cab, a driver touched the wrench on the dashboard. Not a relic, but a reminder of the woman who stopped. No one had asked her to kneel in the mud that night. But she did, and the road remembered. Now, Every storm that rolled across Kansas found shoulders empty and drivers safe under the Whitman shield. The memo on the break room board was yellowed now, but the ink still held. No questions asked. The wrench was just steel and rubber, but it carried the weight of a promise made and kept. The road stretched on, the way it always does. But now, no driver had to face it alone. And in a small trailer somewhere in Kansas, a single mother packed her lunch and smiled at the boy who now understood what courage looked like. The Empire was never the company. The Empire was always the road and a stranger willing to stop.